Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee, where I've lived for many years. It's the 5th of March. It's 10 o'clock in the morning here. We're having a nice day. I keep hoping that the winter weather is over. We're at 62 now, high is 71, mostly sunny. That means we get free water heat from the sun. Tomorrow about the same. It gets down to about 50 at night though. Thursday we start cooling off for some reason down to high 65. And then Friday 66 and then Saturday 65. But sunny at the same time. Hard for me to understand. And next week on Tuesday we hit 78, and then on Wednesday 77, and then Thursday 74. So I'm thinking this will probably dry the roof out, I'm hoping, if we don't get any showers, and that will warm the house up, which is still 10-15 degrees colder than it is outside because it goes down to 50, even the high 40s at night. And that cools the house off with the concrete roof and tile on the roof. No, we just have concrete with tar, and then we have concrete block and concrete floor with tile, and it just gets so cold. So you got to keep running the heaters, except during the heart of the day. But electricity is expensive here, so anything we can get away from, paying for is great. The other weather channel, which sometimes is more accurate, but it doesn't give me my immediate area. It just gives me the region. And it shows basically not going to rain today. And then it gives us on Thursday a 42% chance of rain, which is troubling. And then on Friday, 38, and then Saturday, 45%. And then it goes away. But this is just the region, and it shows it, which is about 5 miles away from me down at a lower altitude. It shows it next week getting into the low 80s and very high 70s, like 79, 77. And it shows it staying over 70. So but I'm at altitude. I'm several hundred feet up, so it's cooler. But it's not remarkable. I thought it would be 10 degrees cooler, but no. It's maybe 5-6 degrees cooler, and that's all. If I go up on higher altitude, I could get 10 or 15 degrees cooler, but then you're living in the middle of nowhere, like in the Golan Heights. And then in your winter, it gets really cold. It'll go to maybe the high 30s or 40. You could even catch snow occasionally. So that's... in our book, we were interpreting that as a bad trade-off because the winters are going to be pretty rugged. So what you save in the heat in the summer, you may not have to run the air conditioner much. Anyway, Israel's just an incredibly hard place to live right now. And the Lord intends that to be the case. That's the reality. Okay, let me try to race people into the chat so I can post what I need to post. It's like a race, and they're posting already. The Lord intends that to be the case. That's the reality. Okay, let me try to race people into the chat so I can post what I need to post. Let me get rid of that. Okay. All right, guys, please don't post in the chat until I put my posts up. Please, some of these people I see are not here all the time, so they don't know. But thank you. I'm a one-man show, so I don't have people doing this for me. I got to do everything. And the offerings is what I post along with my email address, and that's important. If you want to keep the broadcast going, you got to keep me going. Okay, almost done, folks. Not much more to go. I'm going to do the Bible study first today, and then afterwards we'll do the current events, which the preppers and survivors call Intel from Israel. But I'd rather save my energy for the Bible study, and then I could, at the end, give you the current events, which are not really very breathtaking. The ceasefire seems dead as a doornail. Kamala Harris is talking like Biden's shadow or something. I don't know what you call it, but she's saying that, you know, we need a ceasefire, and she's belly aching about humanitarian aid. The problem with humanitarian aid is Hamas steals it from the people and then sells it back to them at exorbitant prices. America dropped 38,000 MREs, I don't know, yesterday or something, day before maybe. They landed on the beach. The other countries that keep trying to drop the aid don't want to drop it in populated areas because it lands on the roof, and so many people run up on the roof that they're afraid it'll collapse the roof. These people aren't real bright. They don't manufacture anything in Gaza except weapons. Do you ever buy a TV or a radio or a car or anything from Gaza? No. You ever hear of them winning a Nobel Prize? Or, you know, it's silly. They don't do anything. They don't even have accomplished hackers. They do phone frauds on Israelis, because a lot of them speak Hebrew, and they get a chip that works for a phone that works in Israel, and they call them and try to get information out of them so they could hack something. You know, it's just nonsense. People, I suppose, occasionally fall for it, but so they're stealing it, so the people are malnourished. Jordan tries to bring it in, they drop it in the sea. Other countries, I think France tried it, they drop it in the sea. They can't even get it landing on the beach. Just America can. These are self-heating MREs, so they don't need water. These are rather costly. You press something in there and it has chemicals that heat it up. And they're giving them things that these people don't really understand, you know. Like chicken and noodles, that's not something you see around here. Chili. Now, I think in the back of my mind, I did see one restaurant, maybe, I can't recall, that a lot of the Anglos frequent, that does, it's a chain, that does occasionally have chili. I think, I can't even say for sure, maybe not. You don't see chili in any restaurants here in Israel that I'm aware of. Maybe in Tel Aviv you could find it. They don't know what chili is. With beef. Chicken noodle, they don't know what that is. They know from spaghetti. That they know from. But, you know, they're getting very few calories in the MRE. No, they're getting calories. They keep them alive. But 38,000 is nothing. You know, to really make an impact, they'd probably have to send 1 million, you know. So this keeps the genocide via starvation narrative running, which apparently Biden likes. Now, I guess I'm getting into the war. What you guys that listen to me understand is a ceasefire. Now, the latest thing Biden wants and Kamala Harris, is a ceasefire before we invade Rafah. Once we invade Rafah, Hamas is finished. Okay? It'll take them, if they ever rebuild, it'll take them a long time, and prophetic time won't allow. So they're Israel's dead bent on going into Rafah. And they want a list of names of the living hostages that they have, and Hamas fails to give it. So I think the amount of living hostages could be minimal or close to non-existent. In other words, they might have 10 or 20 or something like that out of what's anticipated to be around 100. So that's a problem for Hamas, and Israel is not going to go into anything. They also want terrorist murderers and attempted murderers released from prison in Israel, and we're not going to do that. They don't want to give us a list of living hostages. They don't want to do anything. They're going through the motions with Biden so he doesn't turn on them. Now, they're also trying to effect a peace treaty with Hezbollah, but Hezbollah is not even reading the offers they're sending. Not even reading it. Is there a chance that Biden will tell Hezbollah, look, you guys are a bunch of jerks, and when the war started, I told you not to open up a second front, and you have. So the interpretation in Biden's demented mind is that just shooting at our border predominantly is not a second front. Well, tell that to the 80,000 people that had to evacuate. By the way, Lebanon had to evacuate 100,000 from the southern Lebanon area near our border. Now that gives the IDF a much freer hand when they go in, because they don't have to worry about civilian casualties and human shields. Hezbollah is not the supreme government power of Lebanon. There is an actual de jure government, and they're the de facto government, but maybe only 75-80%, something like that. They have to pay attention to the Lebanese government somewhat. But they don't give a hoot about the evacuees. But they're not using them as human shields. Hamas would prevent the evacuees from leaving. They'd keep them there. And then put launchers in their front yard, put launchers on the roof, stuff like that. So Hezbollah can't go that far in Lebanon. Though, why would Biden want to do something like this, attack Lebanon? Because that, either with Israel or tell Israel, you stand down, we'll attack it, which is more likely than a joint effort. Because that will light up the region against Israel and America, and probably the UK to a lesser extent. Lighting up the region is the snare that Netanyahu and Biden are probably working for, because the unclean spirits are working in this regard, get rid of Israel. So that would do it. Although if Israel does it by itself over Ramadan, it'll do it also. The Americans and the British and the other countries that have one or two ships laying around in the Red Sea are ineffective. The Houthis attacked a vessel last night or yesterday in the afternoon or something, and they hit it with 2 missiles, and they caused a fire, which was put out, and the ship went about its merry way. They didn't have any casualties. I don't recall what kind of ship it was, but it was an MSC ship, big shipping company, and they say it had ownership to Israel. I don't know. Their definition of ownership to Israel is relatively broad, Like if it is an Israeli once upon a time owned 1% of the stock, it's an Israeli vessel. Well, they think it's going to or from Israel, it's an Israeli vessel. They say if the Gaza war stops, the Houthis will stop and the Hezbollah will stop. But if it's a temporary ceasefire, they'll stop for as long as the ceasefire. Now, there's an outside chance that if we attack Rafah and dismantle Hamas, they may give up the ghost, so to speak, on this, because now they're trying to resurrect Hamas from the dead, because they're going to be basically dead, not literally, but as an effective fighting force, they'll be kaput. So this is a factor. Egypt doesn't want any part of them at all. They're afraid of them. They know the civil unrest that'll happen, the terrorism. They don't want to go near it. So they're keeping them from going into Egypt. Jordan doesn't want them for the same reason. Nobody wants them. And the nations of the world want him in Gaza to be revived and conduct war on Israel continuously. Okay? F-35s flew, American F-35s flew over Ukraine yesterday. And other countries in NATO, 2 other countries had planes the day before fly over NATO. So this is getting interesting. It looks like, although several world leaders said, oh, we're not sending boots on the ground into Ukraine, they're lying, which is what they are, liars. So their actions show that they're probably moving in this direction. Now, Israel had issued a threat to Russia that, because Russia's apparently supplying weapons to these terrorist groups, causing trouble for us, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, Iraqi militias in Syria and Iraq. So Russia said they were going to give some kind of boats to Lebanon, I think, to detect with radar or something, I don't know, detect weapons, not battleships or destroyers, and some other things. So Israel very recently told Russia that they're likely to find Israeli weapons in Ukraine being used against them. Or Israeli weapons in Ukraine, I should say. They may give them defensive weapons. Now, Israel is in a bad place to go give weapons away to another country right now with all these wars. Very bad idea. But Israel hasn't done it. They said it. Now, the reason they said it is kind of valid. They want Russia to cut it out. Because if Russia does that to Hezbollah, they're going to go tit for tat and give it to Ukraine. So Russia's got to think about that. Russia's in no position to go attack Israel. Don't think you're going to see that, because you're not. They're in no position. First thing Israel will do is wipe out their Navy base and their air base in Latakia by the Mediterranean. And for us to knock that out, it would take a few hours. It's child's play. It's really not defended well at all. We'd knock it out with missiles, surface to surface, missiles from the air. Our Navy may attack the boats that are moored at the piers with, from a distance at sea with rockets, anti-ship rockets and missiles. It would be over for them, and we would bomb their planes, and their influence in Syria would be diminished. And this is very likely to happen, because we will annex part of Syria very shortly in the next few days, weeks, or months, because King David ruled from there, and we're going to get the land back that our fathers had. Our fathers did not have Egypt and Djibouti and, that part of Africa from the Nile to the Euphrates. We didn't have all that then, but we will eventually. But this phase we're in, we'll get Gaza back, which we should have had. We'll get Lebanon back, southwest Syria, or maybe even more of Syria. And we'll also get maybe all of Syria, I don't know. And we'll also get the Sinai Peninsula, I believe, back. Okay? So the Greater Israel will be down the road. All right. So Russia's going to heed the warning, because they know we mean it. And if Israel does that, Biden and NATO will give Israel an attaboy pat on the back, and Putin knows that too. So we're watching this one, but Putin's got his hands full. He's got to worry about Ukraine. He's got plans for Europe. He's not about to barge himself down in the Middle East. that's the snare he's working on America, and he knows that's the snare. He's not going to go down that road. So this fight with Lebanon could lead into a fight with Iran getting very active. I don't know. Biden has basically got so many things going on, he doesn't know what to do. Supreme Court said one of the states, I can't remember which state, Georgia maybe, has no right to take Trump off the ballot. So that means other states are going to have to comply with that Supreme Court decision, I believe. And that puts Trump closer and closer. I don't believe we're going to prophetically have time for an election, let alone a swearing in January 2025. I don't think the prophetic clock's going to go that long for America. But that could affect Biden because he doesn't know that, and Biden's worrying about the election. So now the FBI gives Trump a warning that there's assassins, they're Middle East terrorist types, I believe they were indicating, that are trying to kill Trump. Now, it's worth talking about. It came from the Miami field office because Trump has this house in Mar-a-Lago, which is up higher from Florida. It's probably 4, 5, 6 hour drive or something like that. Now, he's got Secret Service protection being a former president. You get that for life. So the Secret Service detail is, I don't know how big it is. I mean, you would think the least it is at Mar-a-Lago is 20, 25 guys a shift. And that's probably about what it is. What they basically have to do is have a small team of guys up on the roof, and they might have shoulder-fired rockets. They might. Like they do at the White House. We don't know. That's in case some plane tries to do a suicide attack, or a plane or a helicopter decides to attack the house or something like that. I would expect they got 5 to 10 of those things. They could also shoot them if somebody tries to rush the house with like a Brinks armored car that most bullets will bounce off of. They might also have 50 caliber and 20 millimeter guns, but I don't know. They might have 30 or 40 shoulder-fired rockets, I don't know, but they're going to definitely have a handful. And remember, they got good communications. They could get help very quickly today, right now, you know. So they would have guys by the gate to enter the property. They would have guys patrolling the perimeter. They would have sensors, day-night cameras all around the perimeter and the property. They might have guys on the access road to the property, you know, 2 guys out a quarter or half a mile to see what's going on. And they probably have guys by the entrances to the house, maybe just 1 guy, but they got radio communication. And they probably have a room in the house or in one of the guest houses where they monitor all the cameras, and they probably have a rest area for the agents to go to the bathroom, have coffee, eat a sandwich or whatever, make phone calls when they're on break. And they probably in that area have a administrative center where the special agent in charge of that unit is there. Maybe it's 25 to 30 guys at a shift, but I would think as a bare bones minimum it would be 15 or 20, and that's stripping it way down. Of course, it's a large property. You know, now if you were talking about Trump's penthouse in New York, well, that's a different story. They might have 1 or 2 guys on the roof with shoulder-fired rockets and rifles, and that could be likely. They would have at the, usually there's an entrance from the hallway into the apartment. It's on 2 or 3 levels. So they would have a couple of guys standing there in the hallway, so when the elevator comes up, they greet the people and screen them. And then you might have, there's an inner passageway, and they might have another 1 or 2 agents there for backup. And they probably have none in the residence. They probably have cameras in parts of the residence that they monitor someplace. Maybe they have a room in his apartment that they put the cameras in, the screens in to watch. And they probably have guys in the lobby, guys in the garage by his cars. And they watch the traffic in the elevator, this sort of thing. It'd be much less agents because they don't have such a massive issue. But Mar-a-Lago is by the ocean, so they have to have guys down by the beach. He has beachfront property in case they try to come at him with divers or bring like a water ski boat, make it look like they're water skiing or something, and then they get behind the boat where they can't see him, and the guy's skiing, they pass him diving gear, and he dives and then tries to approach. So they've got to have a couple of guys watching the beach with binoculars and stuff like that. It's a really big, expensive mess. And the security that they're giving Trump, I would say, is world class. I don't know. I mean, the seated president has more security, but much more, probably 5 or 10-fold. But the security he has is really crackerjack. And Secret Service agents are very, very well trained. They go to the standard course that all the special agents go to, like, ICE and IRS and Food and Drug Administration. They have a general, how to write a search warrant, how to do this, how to do felony car stuff, how to serve a warrant of arrest or search and surround the house and blah, 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 arrest and take cover, and they teach them how to shoot. Now, after they finish that, then the Secret Service agents go on to a special Secret Service school. And you're not going to be a Secret Service agent unless you could shoot quite well. And I mean quite well. These characters can shoot, okay? And they shoot with great frequency. They're at the range, they're putting in probably more range time than any other federal agents do. FBI agents are going to learn how to shoot also, as well as the other agents. Now, there's agents that are ninjas, where they get free ammo at the range. If their gun wears out or breaks, they get it repaired for free, get a replacement, because it's a government-issued gun. They don't buy the gun, although they can buy guns too, but they got to go through red tape. Usually at these offices, one of them will get a federal firearms license, and they'll order the gun for the other agents who pay for it, and they'll have it delivered to the field office and then give it to the guy. So the special agent in charge of the office knows what guns they're buying typically, but if a guy, wants to buy 2 or 3 hunting rifles, 2 or 3 shotguns for hunting, that's normal. If he wants to buy 11 assault rifles, then he's abnormal in their minds, and they start taking a very hard look. So most of these guys, they're going to have a few pistols, very few, 5 or less, and they'll have an assault rifle and, maybe a shotgun or 2 shot. They're not going to have a lot of, unless they're avid hunters, which a lot of these characters are. And, then they'll have a lot of fishing gear, because they're usually going to be fishing too. And they'll have several hunting rifles and some hunting shotguns. But, if they start collecting 35 guns, they're going to go for psych evaluation, they can't. So these guys will have their carry gun, most of them, and then they'll have a off-duty gun sometimes, which will be a smaller gun, maybe a 2-inch 5 or 6 shot 38 special pistol, or a small Glock or something like that, and they would use that if they were going to go play golf or tennis or go to the health club or, do things that where they weren't going to be wearing all their clothes. You know, I mean, they'd have clothes on, but they might play golf wearing golf shoes and shorts and a golf shirt and a hat, you know, and they don't want to try to conceal while they're playing golf a full-size gun, so they could get a pocket holster and stick a small gun in there, like a small Glock or a small revolver, and get away with that. And a lot of them have these small guns as a backup gun in case they're trying to make an arrest, offer on duty, or defend themselves, and they get into an altercation and they lose control of the gun and falls on the floor. They can pull out a second gun. Frequently it's an ankle holster. Sometimes they'll put it in a crotch holster or in the small of the back, or there's a lot of places you can conceal it, you know. But it's hard. If somebody, there's no such thing as concealing a gun that's going to pass a pat down. That's stupid, unless the guy doing the pat down search doesn't search you in the vital areas, let's say. Okay. If they do, they're going to pick it up. You're not going to conceal a gun. They got these little rinky-dink pen guns. It's the size of a ballpoint pen, and you put a .22 long rifle in there, and then it has like a little button by the clip. I had one once in another country many years ago. It's worthless, but you could pull it back and you could lock it in place, and then you release it, and it has a firing pin. It strikes the .22 long rifle, which has a short barrel in the pistol in the pen, and it goes out. Oh, you're going to be able to, I mean, if you went over to somebody and you stuck it in their ear or something, maybe you'd cause some bad injury, or if you put it right in their eyeball. But I mean, if you're 3 feet away and you're going to shoot it at somebody, it's going to, at 3 feet, it's probably going to hit somewhere in an area like this. And it's not going to penetrate. It's not going to have velocity. And it's extremely difficult to get a second shot. You got to disassemble the pen, take the spent shell out, put a new one in, forget it. That doesn't work. These are novelties, and I think they invented these to see if they were assassination weapons that would pass scrutiny. Why? If you put it in an inside pocket of a sport coat, right, and someone pats you down, there's probably an extremely high probability they're going to think it's a pen. Okay? Especially if you put it in one of those plastic pen holders and you put, a Paper Maiden, a Waterman in there, and, or a cross pen with it, an astute, sophisticated law enforcement officer would not buy it. So he would want to remove it and look at it, and then he'd pick it up. They should make those. I think they probably at one time made them in .25 caliber, which isn't going to make that much of a difference from the .22 long rifle. You really need it in a .32. That would work, but that's a pretty thick thing, and you're going to need a heavier barrel, and it's just, so most of the people go for a small revolver or one of those small Glocks. I think one's called the 27. I can't remember all the Glock numbers. I used to know them. But you could get a small Glock in 9mm that has about 10 shots or something. And that's a decent backup. Or a lot just go for the revolver because it's a backup. They don't want to schlep 10 rounds of ammo. They'd rather have 5 in there. And if you're going to use the backup, you're going to be probably using it at 10 feet or less. And the .38 is actually more potent than people think. It makes a hole through you. It's what it does. And that means it'll penetrate the front and the rear unless somebody's 150 pounds overweight and got, if they've got big, heavy outer clothing on, it's going to slow it down. But normally it's going to, and then they're going to bleed out in 2 holes. It doesn't have the shock value of a .357. It doesn't have that bulldozing force of a .45 ACP or anything like that, but they are effective. New York City cops use them for, I don't know, 60, 70 years, and they bring people down, you know. To really incapacitate, you're probably going to need to take them down 2 bullets. So if you're confronting 2 people, which is pretty typical, if you're going to get attacked, it's very rare you're going to be attacked by one person. Okay, like you're walking down the street and some guy wants to rob you. The only sole Lone Ranger robbers you're really going to encounter are going to be junkies. And they're just going out of their mind from withdrawal, and they'll try it because they're desperate. And that's the kind of attack you can fend off. Usually he won't have a gun because he would have sold the gun to buy drugs before. Rather than take the gun and go out and rob people, a junkie would sell the gun first and get high for a day or 2 or 3 and then go worry about it. But they might have a knife or a club or something like that. And this is the kind of guy that gets taken out. You know, the unarmed combat training they give to these federal agents is more, will work against an untrained fighter. Okay? It's not going to be highly effective against a trained fighter at all. Okay? Any kind of trained fighter, because it's superficial, you know. Now they might have special undercover schools for these federal agents and police too, and they could be several months long, and they might give them 2 hours a day of unarmed combat, and if they gave them 2 hours a day for 3 months, they would be somewhat more effective. And if it was a 6-month course, which I don't believe it is, you know, they would be very effective. But, you know, they teach them things about wigs, makeup, clothes, counter-surveillance, how to know you're being followed, how to make sure you're not being followed, you know, various acting lessons. They have actors teach them acting lessons. Yeah, they do. I'm telling you, I know what I'm talking about. They get acting lessons. They film them, they show them what they look like on film and how their, you know, facial expressions should be and how they're not. You know. It's an interesting thing. And it's extremely dangerous, you know. A lot of DEA agents go undercover and a lot get hurt. And in police departments too. Today, the gangs, the drug gangs and the violent cartel gangs have no problem killing cops. They don't care. They'll just kill cops, you know. So anyway, I don't think Trump's in any grave risk. He's extremely well protected. The way they would have to get Trump would most likely be to hit him with an onslaught of heavy weapons, not rifles of any caliber. I'm talking about shoulder-fired anti-tank weapons. They'd have to go over there with you know, at least a handful of those, if not a dozen, with a lot of guys to hold off the Secret Service. So you're probably talking, you know, 30 to 50 guys with AK-47s to drive the Secret Service crazy. And they wouldn't have to get that close to the house. They could probably be a half a mile away and shoot the shoulder-fired rockets in mass at Mar-a-Lago. And that may kill Trump. But you'd have to understand that Trump's house has a safe room or rooms that are probably like in his master bedroom. They probably built an area 10 by 12 or something like that that has reinforced concrete walls all around it, no window, a heavy steel door, and he could go in there and hold off against a lot of these shoulder-fired missiles. Now, he's an old man, and he might not be by the bedroom, and he might be downstairs, or he might be on the patio or something like that. So they could maybe demolish the place before he has a chance to get into one of those safe rooms, you know. I don't think they're going to be able to fly over his house with a helicopter or a plane because it's a no-fly zone. And jets will be dispatched, and they could probably bring the aircraft down with their shoulder-fired weapons. So they could get Trump if he's traveling. But I expect the Secret Service would double or triple his protection level right now. As he gets, you see, not only is he a former president, he's a strong presidential contender. If he was not a former president, by now they would be giving him Secret Service protection because he looks like he's going to be the candidate from the Republican Party. But because he's both, he's going to get a lot of protection. So right after the Georgia, the Supreme Court decision said, no, this state can't take him off the ballot, these threats emerged. So, of course, people are going to say, oh, Biden did it. I don't think Biden did it. I think people got mad. They don't want to see him at the get presidency, so they decide, well, we better go kill him. So then, if you were really going to kill Trump for real, would you announce it? Well, if you were a crazy terrorist, you would, because it would give you more credibility for your organization. But it's also stupid because they'll double and triple his detail. I'll be right back. Biden called Benny Gantz to the White House the other day for meetings. Now, this breaks diplomatic protocol because Benny Gantz did not first ask Netanyahu for permission to go. And Netanyahu is the prime minister. Gantz is not. Gantz is just a small, well, he's not so small anymore, but he's a political party leader. And he doesn't have that power. But he does sit in the war cabinet. And this is the second time Biden did this in defiance of Netanyahu. So he's probably trying to see if he could exploit Gantz against Israel better than he can with Netanyahu. I think he's sick and tired of Netanyahu's lies. And he doesn't know how to deal with Netanyahu. Nobody would. Obama hated talking to him. So Trump liked him. So, I don't know the outcome of it, but I don't think Gantz said, well, the other problem is, what does he do with Gantz? I mean, get Gantz to call for a vote of no confidence, get rid of Netanyahu and get in power, but I'm not so sure Gantz is going for that. They're not telling us anything, so it's very hard to figure out what they're up to. Okay, let me go and check the chat for the garbage. All right. The Daughter of Babylon, America? Yeah, I think it'll be over by the very end of July. Oh, things are getting quieter in the chat in terms of the garbage, people posting bad things. Okay, so what I want to cover with you today is a few things in end times prophecy that most people don't know, but those that have been following me for a while do. But what I'm led to do today by the Lord is put the pieces together very clearly for you. And it's about this immediate days, not years ahead, days or weeks ahead of us. Not even months, I don't think. Maybe a few months at most. So, what's really going to happen? With an eye on the internal government of Israel. And to do that, I need to build a basis for you to, I understand it. It's one thing to teach yourself the Bible, or the Lord to teach you, and you understand it. It's another thing to teach it to people. Completely different thing. I mean, not really, but you got to try to put yourself in their place and then enlighten them that way. Okay, it's much more difficult. So we go to Jeremiah 30 for a beginning, okay? And Jeremiah 30, as you're going to see, is the birth pangs for the nation being born in a day, which happens basically in Zechariah 12. The word that came to Jeremiah from Jehovah saying, Thus speaketh Jehovah Elohim Yisrael, Jehovah God of Israel, saying, Write thee all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book, or it's safer, it could be a scroll maybe too, We don't use scrolls today. For lo, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah. Now this has not yet happened. The people in Israel are predominantly Judah, which is the tribe of Judah and Levi. There's a sprinkling, small amount of Benjamin here, and maybe one other tribe, very slight amount. So Israel, the 10 tribes, is not here. Pretty much. I mean, we could say, oh, they're not here. For prophetic interpretation, they're really not here. Saith Jehovah, the tiny piece of here. That's it. Saith Jehovah, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. You see, we get the land that our fathers had. Our fathers never had from the Euphrates to the Nile. So we get what they have, like what King David had and Solomon and this type of thing. Okay? And these are the words that Jehovah spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith Jehovah, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Does this sound like Israel today? Duh, of course. And you now, ask you now, and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hand on his loins as a woman in travail? Travail is giving birth. Birth pangs precede the travail. The travail is a lousy word for English in today. It means like the water broke, the cervix is dilated, the baby is crowning, this kind of thing, okay? And all faces are turned to paleness. So they're clutching their guts, that's scary, okay? And the blood's running down to their guts, so their faces are pale. They're really scared. Do you got that? It's not talking peace and safety, okay? Get that out of your head. That's not what's coming up on Israel. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. Okay, that day is great. The word for great is gadol. It means big. Okay? It doesn't mean, like the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. It's a high, you could say great, but you could say big also, So that none is like it. None is like it does not mean it's the worst thing that will ever happen to Israel, does it? No, wait till I finish. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Does Gog and Magog sound like they're saved out of it? Gog and Magog is a great day of the Lord. No. Read Zechariah 14. I'll read it to you. I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, that's raped, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity. So half of Jerusalem is taken into captivity. And what you need to understand is the time at times and half a time is not 42 months and it's not 1260 days, only in the churches. What it really is captivity. The first captivity, Egypt. Number 2, second captivity, Babylon. Third captivity, 70 AD, Rome. Half captivity, right here in Zechariah 14, verse 2. Half of Jerusalem goes into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. What is the residue? 34.99 in Strong's. The remainder of them don't get cut off. They stay there. And why does that happen? See, you don't know these answers because you just read Ezekiel 38:39 by itself. It's the whole book of Joel. It's the same thing. It's Zechariah 14. And not most important, but very important is Ezekiel chapters 8 to 11. The church doesn't want you to know this. They know it because how could they only teach false doctrine unless at least the demons knew true doctrine, right? You just think about it. So in Ezekiel 8, this is your great falling away. Okay, he gets into a vision, and in Ezekiel 8 verse 3, and he put forth the form of a hand and took me by a lock of my head, and the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heaven and brought me in visions to God to Jerusalem, to the door of the inner gate that looketh towards the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provoketh to jealousy. This is the abomination of desolation. This is it. It's in the gate between the inner courtyard, where the altar is and the entrance to the temple, and the outer courtyard on the north. There's a gate, and that's where the image of jealousy is put. Okay, in the gate, not in the holiest. The holies, like the church wants you to believe. They want all the bad stuff on Israel and all the good stuff on them. We're going to wave bye-bye and fly away. Yeah, in your dreams. Rapture comes on the last day. That means there's no more days. That's John 6:39, 40, 44, and 54. 4 times Yeshua told us, I will all that the Father gave me, I will raise him up at the last day. Everybody goes up at the same day. There's no left behind rapture except in the churches on Sunday from 11 to 1 or whatever the heck that's when the that's the only place you can get the rapture. Darby, Schofield, Ryrie, and all these other crackpots write it, It completely contradicts what Yeshua said in John 6:39, 40, 44, and 54, 4 times. Everybody gets raised up together on the same day, the last day, which means there's no more days. So it's after the millennium, after Satan's release and gathers them at the sand, like the sand of the sea. Then fire comes down from heaven. God burns everything up in the universe. That's why we, the believers, meet him in the air and go up on the clouds of heaven to heaven, because there's nothing left to stand on. And that's the last day. There's no more days. They're your enemy, the church, believe me. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there. That's the angel Michael that God put his name in Exodus 23, which is Jehovah. And he resides in the next temple. That's why it's frequently referred to as a house. This is the house made without hands. He entered Solomon's temple briefly to anoint it. He met with Moses and Aaron in the mercy seat in the tabernacle, but he didn't live there. It was a collapsible tent that they moved around. Okay? Behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there, according to the vision I saw in the plain. Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way towards the north. That's the northern gate area. So I lifted up my eyes the way towards the north, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar was this image of jealousy in the entry. He said furthermore unto me, Son of man, seest thou what they do, even the great abominations that the house of Israel committeth here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary. That's why they're doing it, to get the glory of God of Israel to leave the sanctuary. And when you read Ezekiel 8-11, which you should read it 10 times probably to get it down, when he leaves, he goes out slowly. You see it depicted through the chapters. Right after he leaves, he goes to the Mount of Olives and stands over it. It says it in Ezekiel 11. And that's when the attack happens. Okay? And I'm going to show you more about the great falling away. But turn you yet again, and thou shalt see greater abomination. And so he brought me to the door of the court. When I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. Then said he unto me, Son of man, dig now in the walls. And when I had digged in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, Go in, and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So I went in, and I saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts, and all the idols of the house of Israel, portrayed upon the wall round about. And there stood before them 70 men, the ancient, maybe the elders, of the house of Israel, and in the midst of them stood Jazaniah the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand. We don't know who this guy is. He only appears in these passages. I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to skip around a little bit. And he says, Thou shalt see greater abominations. He brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house. That would be on the east, which was towards, Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was towards the north. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Tammuz is the sun god. Like, here comes the sun, those songs, right? That's what they're doing, and praising the sun god. And the sun god Tammuz's birthday is December 25th. Do you have an idea now about what 2 billion people worship the sun god on December 25th? Then said he unto me, hast thou seen, what's the sun god's mother? Esther, Easter. Then said he unto me, hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these. And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs towards the temple of Jehovah and their faces towards the east, and they worshiped the sun towards the east. Then he said unto me, hast thou seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing to the house of Judah that they commit the abominations which they commit here? For they have filled the land with violence, and have returned to provoke me to anger. And lo, they put the branch to their nose. Therefore will I also deal in fury. My eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity. Though they cry in my ears with a loud voice, yet will I not hear them. Does that sound like great is Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it? Therefore will I also deal in fury, and my eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity. Does that sound like it? Of course not. Only in the churches on Sunday morning are they going to talk like that. Now let's go to the next chapter real quick. He cried also, this is Ezekiel 9 verse 1. He cried also in my... Now remember, this can't happen until we have a temple that the glory God of Israel is actually residing in. And this has never happened yet for Israel. Never, ever yet. So it never took place already. Do you got that? He cried also in my ears with a loud voice, saying, cause them that have charge over the city to draw near, even every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. These would be the angels. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the higher gate, which lieth towards the north, and every man a slaughter weapon in his hand. This does not sound like great is Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Does it? With a slaughter weapon? And one man among them clothed with linen, with a writer's inkhorn by his side, and they went in and stood beside the brazen altar. And the glory of the God of Israel, Michael, was gone up from the cherub whereupon he was to the threshold of the house. See, he's leaving the temple. He never lived in any temple or tabernacle before. Not Moses' tabernacle or David's. It's probably the same tabernacle. He didn't live in Solomon's temple. He went in briefly to anoint it, probably a few moments, and left. The glory cloud. He never went in at all to Zerubbabel's temple. He never went in at all to Herod's temple. When the curtain was rent, the holiest of holies was empty. Clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. So what do we got here? And he called to the man clothed with linen, which had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And Jehovah said unto him, go through the midst of the city, that's Jerusalem, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Now, what's a mark? You know, in English, a mark is put your mark here on a contract, like in the old Davy Crockett movies or John Wayne movies, you know, they're buying or selling a piece of land or cows, put your mark here, put your name there. Put your signature there. It's not X marks the spot. In TV, they would show you some guy that couldn't read or write, he'd make an X. But chances are, if he could make an X, he could write his name or something like that. All right, so What good would it do to have a guy sign a document and just make an X on it? It doesn't mean anything. All right. So maybe they didn't know cursive, they just knew how to print, but that still works. So the word for mark means name. So it was setting Jehovah's name on the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abomination that be done in the midst thereof. Now you read about this in Revelation and you never put the two together because the church doesn't want you to understand it. And to the others he said in my hearing, go you after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have you pity. Slay utterly old and young maids, little children, and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark. Mark could also be a sign. Begin at my sanctuary, then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. Those, I think, the ones worshiping Tammuz. And the sun, defile the house, that's not destroy it, and fill the courtyard with the slain, and go forth and slow the city. Now in Daniel 8, I don't remember the verse, you read after this is over, the temple is reconsecrated. Now they want you to think this temple was destroyed. It's not. It's defiled. It's polluted. It's contaminated. But it's cleansed after. Wilt thou destroy the residue of Israel in thy pouring out of thy fury upon Jerusalem? Great is Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. No match. You got it? I'm trying to pound this in. Then said he unto me, the iniquity of the house of Israel and Judah is exceeding great, and the land is full of blood, and the city full of perseverance. They say, the Lord hath forsaken the earth, and the Lord seeth not. Okay. And he says, shall not spare, neither will I have pity, but I will recompense their way upon their head. This is the great falling away. Now, let's get some scriptures on the great falling away. What is this slow? I don't know why. My internet's good. I think it glitched. It's not coming up. It says I don't have a connection. But that's connected. No, I can go to websites, so I have a connection. What is going on? Try again. Oh, now it worked. I don't know, Google problem. Second Thessalonians 2. Let's read. Verse 1. Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Yeshua HaMashiach, and by our gathering together unto him. Now the word for gathering together means being gathered together. The church will tell you it's a rapture, but it would be inconsistent with John 6:39, 40, 44, and 54. So it's not that. Gathered together, where? In New Jerusalem. That you be not soon shaken in mind. So they're associating Yeshua coming back to earth here. Now let's keep reading. Not shaken in mind or be troubled neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand. That's the day he comes back to earth. Let Revelation 19, let no man deceive you by any means. Well, that's the church's way of operating. For that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first. He's referencing what I just read to you in Ezekiel 8 and 9, a falling away first. And that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Remember you not when okay, now they always teach this means he's going to be in the temple of Jerusalem. He's not. Read Daniel 11. He's not in the temple. Okay? In Revelation 13, I covered this so much, 1 and 2. The beast comes up out of the sea. John, standing on the sand by the beach, sees him. Satan gives him his seat, his power, and his authority. Revelation 2, the church of Pergamos tells us that's where Satan's seat is, and that's where Satan dwells. So Satan is already, when that was written, roughly 2,000 years ago, Satan was already dwelling in Pergamos on the earth. How many churches teach you that he wasn't thrown out of heaven yet, today even, you know? That's because that's their God. So, he gives the beast his seat. Okay, and his seat's in Pergamos, which is in Turkey, northeast Turkey, which is today called North Cyprus, which is owned, operated, and controlled by Turkey. But it's in Cyprus, not in Israel. The more modern translations say Pergamum, which is in Turkey, but that's wrong. Many translations, including Young's literal and stuff, use Pergamos. So it's in Pergamos, which is in northeast Cyprus, by the beach. And that's where his temple is, because he has to be there, because that's where Satan is, and he gets his power and authority from Satan. And then the false prophet is there, because the false prophet, when you read Revelation 11 carefully, could only do these works, or it's in Revelation 13, one of the two, could only do these works in front of or nearby or in the presence of the beast. And the beast is where Satan is. So they all got to be there. Another church lie, isn't it? Okay. So, just since we're in the business of kicking at the church lies, we'll jump ahead to Ezekiel 11, and I guess around towards the end. It says in 11:22, then did the cherubims lift up their wings, and the wheels beside them, and the glory of God of Israel was over them above. And the glory of the Lord went up from the midst of the city, and stood upon the mountain which is on the east side of the city. The Mount of Olives is the third of a mile east from Jerusalem. Afterwards the Spirit took me up and brought me in a vision by the Spirit of God. Oh, he goes back there. So what it's saying here, and the glory of the God of Israel, which is probably Michael, the angel that Father God Jehovah put his name Jehovah in, so he could receive the offerings in the temple and so forth, went up from the midst of the city and stood upon the mountain which is on the east side of the city. So when it's over, Michael leaves the temple and goes and stands on the Mount of Olives. Now we fast forward to Zechariah 14. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee, for I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle. And the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, which is rape. Half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall Jehovah, remember this angel has the name Jehovah in him, go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. It says Jehovah. Yeshua is never referred to as Jehovah. It's not Yeshua. It's the glory of the God of Israel, Michael, the angel with the name of Jehovah that Jehovah put in him. And Yeshua, by this point in time, has never yet fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof, towards the east and towards the west. And then the people run through the valley for safety. Okay? This is not Yeshua. Only on Sunday at 11 o'clock in the morning in their cockamamie churches is this Yeshua. No place else. It's the glory of God of Israel. Satan hates the glory of God of Israel. Satan doesn't want you to know about that because it's Israel's reward. We get that reward again. You can't beat the glory of God of Israel up. So they get the people to sin, and the sins get so bad over time, the glory of God of Israel leaves the temple. Then, boom, the attack comes. Michael, the glory of God of Israel, stands on the Mount of Olives and waits. He sees the houses rifled, the blood's flowing through the street, the women are raped. Half of Jerusalem goes into captivity. He sees that last one go into captivity, boom. He splits the Mount of Olives open and the rest of them run through. Why the remnant doesn't leave Jerusalem? They don't have to. They got the mark on their forehead. The seal, if you will, maybe, huh? They don't have to go anywhere. Nothing bad's going to happen to them. The angels are making sure of that. God's making sure of it. So why do they got to go? They don't have to go. They stay. Never taught in the church. Okay, so now we go back to Jeremiah 30. While it's fresh in your mind, I think verse 9. Not 9. Okay, as a woman in travail, their faces are turned into paleness. Alas, it's verse 7. For that day is Gadol, great, so that none is like it. That is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. It doesn't add up that this is the great day of the Lord with the falling away. Today, Israel is what, 99.8% or so fallen away. So it doesn't make sense to say that this is today. Falling away means you have to be there to start with, and then you can fall away. And I guess what we should do is look at Ezekiel 39. I'll just scan through it and show you why this is not exactly like it. So they're attacking Israel. And he's talking about the enemies. And he says, in the latter years thou shalt be brought into the land that is brought back from the sword. Do you think Israel is brought back from the sword now? Nonsense, of course not. and is gathered out of many people, in part, yes, against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. We're not dwelling safely in Israel since 1948. Thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, and all thy bands and many people with thee. Thus saith Adonai Jehovah, it shall also come to pass that at that same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. Thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. Not now. It's not Israel today. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. Are you kidding? You're going to say this is Israel today? The only place people are going to say this is Israel today is on Sunday between 11 and 1 in the churches. To take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thy hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods, that dwell in the midst of the land. Sheba, that's actually Yemen, Dedan, Saudi Arabia, and the merchants of Tarshish, which I think would be Lebanon, with all the young lions thereof will say, no, Tarshish may not be that. Let me see. This could be Cyprus or Spain. It's not Lebanon. With all the young lion, but I'm not sure where it ain't. Thereof shall say unto thee, art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil out of Israel? Today, 28% of Israel lives at the poverty line. Therefore, son of man, prophesy and say unto Gog, thus saith the Lord, in that day when my people of Israel dwelleth safely, shalt thou not know it, and thou shalt come from thy place. See, this is not today, okay? But let's go back to Jeremiah 30 now. It can't be. It doesn't fit. It doesn't make any sense. So in Jeremiah 38, for it shall come to pass in that day, saith Jehovah of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. Now this is on that day, and I'll show you where that day is, coming up very quickly. But they shall serve Jehovah Elohim and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Yaakov, saith Jehovah, neither be dismayed, O Israel. For lo, I will save thee from afar, 2nd Exodus, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob, Israel, shall return, and shall be in rest, future, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. This is happening after the 2nd Exodus. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee, though I make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You want a scripture that's never taught on Sunday between 11 and 1 in the church? This is it. Jeremiah 30, verse 11. Tied right in with the birth pangs, the birth of a nation in a day with the 2nd Exodus is all the nations that Jehovah scattered Israel into are going to be destroyed. I reckon you got 125 countries. All of Europe, all of North, Central, South America, the Caribbean, much of the Middle East, if not all of it, little bit of Africa, Asia. I mean, it's a massive amount of nations. Now, what do we see in the world? China's getting ready to go to war with North Korea against South Korea, Japan, Philippines, Guam, Taiwan, Australia possibly. What about Europe? Well, we got the NATO countries and the EU countries getting ready to go against Russia. And then we go to the Middle East, and we got all kinds of friction in Iraq and Syria with Iran and Lebanon and Yemen, and the Palestine, or the rather Gaza. You think none of this is going to happen? Guess again. Now, a full end of the nations doesn't mean everybody gets killed. It means the government is no longer there. Because Satan is the God of this world. All the countries, including Israel, are run by Satan through his people that are sold themselves out for eternity to serve Satan to get material goods in this life. And they're under a delusion. And this is all going to be stopped. And a lot of these nations, they may suffer physical damage too, but they may not. I don't know. But a full end, we can interpret this. Okay. The word is kala, which is a complete termination of all. The word is call, heathen, whither I have, which would be nations, because we didn't get scattered into people, we got scattered into nations. Heathen nations would be more accurate. I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee, that's the chastening we have, in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. For thus saith Jehovah, thy bruise is incurable, and thy wound is grievous. There is none to plead thy cause, that you may be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicine. Now, where do we read this? Let's start again in Jeremiah 30:12. For thus saith Jehovah, thy bruise is incurable, thy wound is grievous. There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicines. Hosea 6:1 and 2. See, I'm showing you how to tie all this together and teach it. Verse 1. Come and let us return unto Jehovah, for he hath torn and he will heal. He hath smitten and he will bind us up. Sounds very much the same. After 2 days will he revive us. That means bring to life, like eternal life. After 2 days. Was this a 48-hour punishment on Israel? No. 2,000-year punishment. And it's up. Time's up, just about. In the 3rd day, that's the millennium, he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. Well, we're going to live in Yeshua's sight in New Jerusalem. I guess people will be raised up from the dead. Then shall we know, if we follow on, to know the Lord is going forth, is prepared as the morning, and he shall come unto us as the rain, as the latter and former rain unto the earth. And you've noticed me talk a lot about how much rain we've had this winter. Gosh. Okay, back to Jeremiah 30. You getting the picture? The way you do prophecy is you get a little piece there, line by line. Line by line, line by line, says right. You get it from all the different prophets, and you got to put the pieces together to get the whole picture. So, I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. but they shall serve Jehovah Elohim and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. That's probably referencing Yeshua. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Yaakov, saith Jehovah. Neither be dismayed, O Israel, for, lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Yaakov shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. 2nd Exodus 4. I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee, though I make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee. Will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. For thus saith Jehovah, thy bruise is incurable, thy wound grievous. There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicines. All thy lovers have forgotten thee. Believe me, we have none anymore. America is the opposite. They seek thee not, for I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thy lawlessness, because thy sins were increased. Why criest thou for thine affliction? For thy sorrow is incurable, for the multitude of thy lawlessness. Because thy sins were increased, I have done these things unto thee. Therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured. That's year of recompenses, which we're in now, and it started back in August, around August 1st, and it'll be over about August 1st, give or take 3 or 4 days or something. And all thine I can't remember the exact date when the Lord told it to me. And all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. That's the nations he scattered us into, because of how cruel they were to us during our captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. For I will restore health unto thee, and will heal thee of thy wounds, saith Jehovah, because they called thee an outcast, saying, This is Zion, who no man seeketh after. Thus saith Jehovah, Behold, I will bring again the captivity of Yaakov's tents, and have mercy, remember that, mercy, 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 on his dwelling places, and the city shall be builded again on her own heap, and the palaces shall remain after the manner thereof, and out of them proceeding thanksgiving, and the voice of them that make merry, and I will multiply them, and they shall not be few. I will also glorify them. What's the word for glorify? Kabod. Yeah, glory, glorify. And they shall not be small. That means insignificant. It doesn't mean we're going to be in the film. In Israel, insignificant or weak in power would be small in Hebrew. Their children also shall be as aforetime, and the congregation shall be established before me, and I will punish all that oppress them. And their nobles shall be of themselves, and their governor shall proceed from the midst of them. And I will cause him to draw near, and he shall approach unto me. To who is this that engaged his heart to approach unto me, saith the Lord? Now, I want to point this out to you. And their nobles, let's look that word up. Adir. Let's get Strong's, how he flipped it into English. The lordly ones, the nobles, okay? Yeah, I can say nobles, shall be of themselves. So the nobles will come from within Israel. And their governor, now the word for governor is 4910, and it's mashal. To rule, have dominion, reign. Let's see how Strong's flips it into English. It's a chief, a ruler. Now, the governors shall proceed from the midst of them. Now, I want to show you the stupidity of people in the world. that follow the churches. We go to Isaiah 1. Whoops, that's 8. Let's try 1. Okay. Maybe verse 27. No. Let's go back. Let's start in Isaiah 1:24. Therefore saith Adonai Jehovah of armies, the mighty one of Israel, I will ease me of mine adversaries, and avenge me of my enemies. And I will turn my hand upon thee, that's a good thing, and purely purge away thy dross, and take away all thy tin. And we see Elijah doing that in Malachi 3. We'll get to that again. And I will restore thy judges. The judge's word is shaphat, which is a governor. It says to judge, a governor. Okay. So let's see how Strong's flips it. To govern, okay. As at the first. And thy counselors as at the beginning. So who is he talking about with the counselors, the 70 counselors? Moses and Aaron, they were judges of Israel. It says so in the scriptures. They acted as the judges. Now, they also were prophets, both of them. The general scheme of things is to be a judge, you also have to be a prophet. Many judges of Israel are very successful and brought Israel 40 years of peace. And some not so good. Now, judges of prophets. We only have 2 prophets coming. Elijah and Apostle John. They're both prophets, and they're both going to be the judges of Israel, like at the first. The last 2 prophets were John the Baptist and Yeshua. Yeshua is way more than just a prophet, but don't take away from him his prophet status as well. And I will restore thy judges as at the first, and thy counselors as at the beginning. Afterward thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed, year of redemption, with judgment, and her converts with righteousness. And the destruction of the transgressors and of the sinners shall be together, and they that forsake the Lord shall be consumed. What does the word consumed mean? Okay, let's see how Strong's flips it into English. Cease, be finished, perish, prepared, consumed, destroyed, done, end. Riddance, take away, waste. Okay, consumed, right? I would add in the word burned up to give you a hint about the 2 witnesses. They that forsake Jehovah shall be consumed, for they shall be ashamed of the oaks which you have desired, and you shall be confounded for the garden that you have chosen. For you shall be as an oak whose leaf fadeth, and as a garden that hath no water. And the strong shall be as tow. Now, what is tow? Something shaken out. They're going to be taken out. And the maker of it as a spark. And they shall both burn together, and none shall quench them. And we're going to learn in Malachi 3 and Zechariah 12 that Elijah is predominantly the one doing this to them, burning them up. What was Elijah's role in the book of Kings? Well, he killed a vast amount of Jezebel's priests and got Israel back on track. He was a warrior. He went out and cut off massive amounts of heads in one day. You know, it's not that easy to cut a head off. I'm a warrior. I mean, it's not that easy. Try doing it 100 times in a day. If you could do that, you probably could outrun a chariot and run across Israel when all you needed was an angel to bring you some food and water, for the journey is so great, and then outrun a chariot. You're not going to cut 100 heads off somebody in one day. First of all, you can't use a little sword. You know, it's going to be it's an effort. You got to position the jerk. If they're running away from you, you're not going to be, I know a lot about this. You're not going to be able to cut him off, cut his head off. You got to get him stationary. And then you got to do a pretty heavy swing. And if you don't have really good sword, you may have to go back and do it again and again. Although after the first swing, you're going to get certain penetration. The person's going to be completely knocked out or dead. But to get it off, it's, you know, you need a pretty heavy-duty sword. Now, you could do it with a katana, or Japanese samurai sword, but it would have to be a good one, and you'd have to have a pretty decent edge on it. And when the Japanese did this, not only did they have a good edge, they also poured oil on the blade to help it pass through. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. And I think he did it 150 times in a row. No, that's not. You're not going to be able to do that. That's a lot of heads. Sorry for the grotesqueness. I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. So now Elijah will just burn them up. It's a lot easier on him. Hey, Tiki. So I'm putting a picture together for you today in a way that should help you deeply understand it and should help you be able to teach it rather easily, I hope. Check the chat. Yes, I go through the messages. I live in Israel. Hey, don't post in Hebrew. The people can't read it, okay? This is an English program, all right? Just to be perfectly clear. All right. I do have a prayer request that I don't want to forget. Let me find it. Where did I put it? Okay, a prayer request for OC, Ocean Charlie. OC, Ocean Charlie. Prayer request for healing for OC. Okay. So let me see if we didn't finish something in Jeremiah 30. Oh, I forgot. I want to do Zechariah. I think it's 2. Show you something that's relevant. We'll pick this up in Zechariah 2:4. And said unto me, Run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle therein. For I, saith Jehovah, will be unto her a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her. This is the glory of God of Israel when he was with the children of Israel, with Moses and Aaron. He made himself like a cloud during the day to cover their camp from the hot sun in the desert, and at night it became a fire, a column with like a circle thing of fire that would give them heat at night in the desert. For I, saith the Lord, will be unto, the word Lord is Jehovah, will be unto her. Remember, Michael has the name Jehovah in him. A wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her. Ho, ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith Jehovah. This is your second Exodus. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds, as the heavens, saith Jehovah. Deliver yourself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. Those are the believers in America. See the timing? It's timed with the second Exodus. You see it? For thus saith Jehovah of armies, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations, which spoiled you. For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. And in Jeremiah 30 it says that he destroys the nations that spoiled them when they were in the captivity. And also the ones that, well, spoiled is probably the captivity. For behold, I will shake my hand upon them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants, that's us, and you shall know that Jehovah of armies hath sent me. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, saith Jehovah. That's the glory of God of Israel, dwelling in Jerusalem in the next temple. And many nations shall be joined to Jehovah in that day, and shall be my people, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, and you shall know that Jehovah of hosts hath sent me unto you. And the Lord shall inherit Judah his portion, the Holy Land, and he shall choose Jerusalem again. Be silent, O all flesh, before the Lord, for he is raised up out of his habitation. Now, we got to go back to verse 1, chapter 1. In verse 2, Jehovah hath been sore displeased with your fathers. Therefore say thou unto them, Thus saith Jehovah of armies, Turn you unto me, saith Jehovah of armies, and I will turn unto you, saith Jehovah of armies. But, be you not as your fathers, unto whom the former prophets have cried, saying, Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, turn you now from your evil ways and from your evil doings. But they did not hear, nor hearken unto me, saith Jehovah. Your fathers, where are they, and the prophets, do they live forever? But my words and statutes which I commanded my servant, the prophets, did they not take hold of your fathers? And they returned and said, Like as Jehovah of hosts thought to do unto us, according to our ways and according to our doings, so hath he dealt with us. Upon the 24th day, the 11th month, okay. The word of the Lord came unto Zechariah, the son of Zerubbabel. Okay. I saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a red horse, and he stood on. I'm not going to go through this. I've done this already. Zechariah 1:14. So the angel that communed with me said unto me, Cry thou, saying, Thus saith Jehovah of armies, I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion with a great jealousy, and I am very sore displeased. Now, very sore displeased is not good translation. Gadol is for very great. He's saying, Ani Gadol, great. Let's see how Storms makes this word into English. Anger or rage. So he's saying, Ani, I, great anger or rage. And then the second word is indignation, anger. So it's extremely intense anger. Okay? The Lord's saying he has very, very, very bad rage, anger, fury with the Goyim, with the heathen that are at ease. For I was but a little displeased, speaking of Israel, and they helped forward the affliction. They increased the punishment on Israel. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies. This is in the form of the glory God of Israel, who has the name Jehovah in him. My house shall be built. Does it say built? Established or continued. In it, saith Jehovah of hosts, and a line shall be stretched forth upon Jerusalem. Cry yet, saying, thus saith Jehovah of armies, my cities through prosperity shall yet be spread, and Jehovah shall yet comfort Zion, and shall yet choose Jerusalem. Then lifted I up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, 4 horns. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah and Israel and Jerusalem. This is probably over many, many years, centuries. And Jehovah showed me 4 carpenters or workmen. Then said I, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. They're downtrodden and stuff like that. But these come to terrify or terrify them, to cast out the horns of the goyim, of the heathen, which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah to scatter it. The only explanation I could come up with these 4 horns is Elijah, Apostle John, the anointed prince from the line of David, and the glory of God of Israel. I cannot take that any further. Am I positive I have it right? Not at all. Is it possible I have it right? Maybe. I don't know who they are beyond that. Are they countries or people or what? I don't know. I wouldn't be very quick to think it's America by a long shot. The only reason Biden gave Israel weapons, bombs, and stuff like that was so Israel could continue to fight and enrage the nations in the Muslim war against Israel. That's all his goal was. Don't kid yourself. All right. So a quick look at Zechariah 12, which is Israel's next battle. And I mean quick. The burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith Jehovah, which stretches forth the heavens, layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I, this is Jehovah saying, he'll do it, will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they, at the time when they shall be. Let's check the words on that. Hayah. Yeah, when it comes to pass. The people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. A siege is generally a surrounding to cut off transfer of goods and people in and out. Roundabout is consistent with us getting back Lebanon, the north, Gaza, the south. The west is the Mediterranean. Nobody lives in the Mediterranean. And the east part could be the southeast part, could be the Sinai Peninsula, and then Syria. Jordan, I'm not seeing in this right now. That could change. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. It's saying all the heathen of the land of Israel, but it could mean the earth. But okay, keep going. In that day, saith the Lord, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and its rider with madness, and I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. The horse, the Sus word, could mean lots of things: a tank, armored personnel carrier, aircraft. It also means swan as well as horse, or it could, you know. And the governors of Judah, those are the prophets, the two witnesses. That's who this is, and you'll soon see it. The governors, or I would say the judges is the correct word, although the governor's word means like a chief of Judah. Now remember, these governors of Judah, they come from amongst Israel. We just read that a couple of moments before. They come from Israel of themselves. So all these idiots running around the world telling you they're one of the two witnesses that aren't from Israel are trying to give you a doctrine that breaks Scripture, which can't be. They got to come from within Israel, okay? The word of the Lord doesn't flow forth from the nations to Israel, and the two witnesses don't flow forth from the nations to Israel. This is churchianity bullcrap. That's all it is. Elevating the church over Israel. It's just garbage, you know. And I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And the governors, or the judges of Judah, shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength in Jehovah of armies, their Elohim. Okay, so there's a lot of concern for the people living in Jerusalem. Now, when it says be of themselves, it doesn't mean that somebody's going to say, oh, I'm Jewish, I'm one of the British Israel tribes or something like that, and they never lived in Israel. No. They got to be in Israel. In Israel is where he accepts you. It says that in the Scripture in many places, most notably in Ezekiel 20, starting in verse 33. So when you're not in Israel, he didn't accept you. Traveling to Israel doesn't mean it. It doesn't cut it. Like coming as a tourist is not it. The judges are going to come from amongst the people in Israel living here that are like them. Okay. The inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength in Jehovah of armies, Elohim. In that day will I make the governors, the judges of Judah, like an earth of fire among the wood. Now, who do you know has fire coming out of their mouth? But the two witnesses. Not some schlep running around in Brazil or Tokyo or the Philippines or Russia saying, I'm one of the two witnesses. You know. In that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf. He says it twice because there's two witnesses, Elijah and Apostle John. And they shall devour or burn up all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left. And Jerusalem shall be inhabited, and it's really saying Jerusalem shall remain still in her own place, even in Jerusalem, not what they say. They burn them up on the right hand and the left hand. So the power of the lightning or the fire that comes out of the two witnesses' mouth is quite powerful. It's not like a blowtorch in World War II where they could, burn a tank or something like that. They're getting massive millions of people in one fell swoop. God's deliverance of his people in these days is going to be so great they're not going to talk about Moses' deliverance anymore. The Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them in that day shall be as David. David killed Goliath, killed the bear, killed the lion. That's pretty good for a feeble old person, right? And the house of David shall be as Elohim, as the angel of the Lord before them. So the house of David is going to be like the glory of God of Israel, Michael, who killed like 150,000 people in one day. Do you ever hear this taught in the church? And it shall come to pass, wait for it. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications. So it's quite fair to say when he pours his spirit out on them with the spirit of grace, that's his spirit, and supplications, they're believers at this point, obviously, right? I'll continue the sentence, the verse. And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. In that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem as the mourning, so they all go into mourning, all the people in Israel go into mourning over what they did to Yeshua when they realize he's Yeshua. So they look upon Yeshua. Now they're fighting like the angel of the Lord and like David. And they've looked upon Yeshua. The sequencing is a little not straight linear. Okay? Now, what happens when you're a believer, which... What are you doing in there? Oh, I thought... Now we go to what happens when you look upon Yeshua and you're a believer. John 6:40. Now, if you want to dispute this, come up with a scripture to do it. Don't just say, oh, he's crazy. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life. There it is. And I will raise them up at the last day. It doesn't mean the everlasting life comes at the last day. They looked upon one whom they have pierced. They had the Spirit poured out on him previously. And then we see him fighting, the feeble one fighting like David, and the house of David fighting like the glory of God of Israel, Michael. You got a scripture to contradict this? Put it up in the chat. People that just say, oh, this is wrong, or this is what happens, their comments are basically irrelevant. They don't have scripture. Everybody's got opinions, but they don't have a scripture. And this is something you can travel around for years to the churches, and you're never going to hear it preached. I'm going through the chat. I got some garbage to throw out here. I'm going to get rid of some of this. Can I get rid of this guy? I had a lot of garbage to throw out, but I think I cleaned it out. Okay, guys, please hit the subscribe button and the like button if you don't mind. And it also helps with the rating on YouTube if you put something in the chat. Even if you just go in the chat and write, anything, write the word anything. Just any interaction. So hit the like button, put anything in the chat, subscribe. It helps a lot with the YouTube formula for who gets, how they rate you, okay? Appreciate it. So, when we read Zechariah 12, we do not read anything about the army of Israel, the Air Force of Israel, the Navy of Israel, or the democratic government of Israel. The people running Israel are the two judges, which is Elijah and Apostle John. They're running Israel at the time this happens, and they get the victory. But it's just the poor people that are there, the downtrodden, the feeble. The rich, fat cats, the government, and all that are gone. God is never going to save Israel through another government or through their own army or military. It's never going to happen, because they need to know Jehovah did it. So, the last scripture for today is Ezekiel 34. And a lot of this build-up was so you will understand Ezekiel 34, which is going to happen in the next days, weeks, or perhaps very few months. And the word of Jehovah came unto me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Now, what is a shepherd? The word is Ra in Hebrew, and it basically means, let's see how Strong's flips it into English. Tens of flock. It's a ruler. It's a ruler. It means a ruler. They call it a shepherd. It's a ruler. Okay? Prophesy against the rulers of Israel. That's the government. And the military and the police and all that, right? Prophesy and say, it's all the government. It's the government, Prophesy and say unto them, Thus saith Adonai Jehovah, unto the shepherds, unto the rulers. Woe be to the rulers of Israel that do feed themselves. Should not the shepherds, the rulers, feed the flocks? The flocks is the people. But the word for flocks is really connotating small cattle. The insignificant, not the rich, fat cats. It's the weak. You eat the fat and you clothe you with the wool. You kill them that are fed. And the word for fed means fat. But you feed not the flock. You kill them. I don't understand what it's trying to say. You slaughter those that are fat. Sacrifice. Maybe it's stabbing them out their own selves in the back. I don't know. It's basically saying kill the fat ones kill the fat. You feed not the flock. Well, those are the small ones, the poor, the weak. The disease you have not strengthened. The word for disease is choah. It means weak. Disease is, you see, they're trying to throw you off the course here with the English. It's the weak have you not strengthened. It's more consistent with weak and strengthened. Weak are the poor and the downtrodden. Neither have you healed that which was sick. The word for healed is Rapha, which means healed. And the sick is, weak as well. Or sick, weak. Neither have you bound up that which was broken. Neither have you brought again that which was driven away. Now this is Netanyahu in his 20-year reign as the curse of Israel has discouraged Aliyah as much as he possibly can. He doesn't want people coming to Israel. He absolutely doesn't want them to come. Now they're saying there's interest amongst a lot of people to come to Israel, but they can't afford it here. And where they're going to work. There's so much discrimination over the foreigners, the newcomers, it's unbelievable. Have you brought again that which was driven away? Neither have you sought that which was lost. He doesn't go after the lost sheep and try to get them to come to Israel. He repels them from coming here. At the beginning of the Ukraine war, lots of them came here and they left. They were being treated so bad by the government and by the people of Israel. They left. But with force and with cruelty have you ruled them. That's the government. You don't own your land. You get a lease from the government for 50 years, which is a sick parody on the Jubilee year. Then it reverts back to the government. It's sick what they're doing. And then you have the right to renew it for another 50 years if you meet their conditions. So you never own your land in Israel. You never have an inheritance to pass on beyond that possible second 50-year period. 17% tax, 50% income tax, $3 a gallon tax on gasoline, plus the price of the gas. And then the rabbis with the kosher food probably put 25, 35% on the food, maybe more. It's horrible here. The landlords want you to repair the house. They want you to pay their property tax for them. And the courts allow this. Watch. And with cruelty have you ruled them. Oh, they rule with severe cruelty here. And they were scattered because there is no ruler, no shepherd. And they became meat to all the beasts of the field. The beasts, the chaya, are the neighbors, where they get picked on around the world when they were scattered in the Exodus. My sheep wandered throughout all the mountains and upon every high hill, yea, my flock was scattered upon all the face of the earth, and none did search or seek after them. That's the leaders of Israel since 1948. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of Jehovah. You rulers of Israel, hear the word of Jehovah. As I live, saith Jehovah Elohim, saith Adonai Jehovah, surely because my flock became a prey, and my flock became meat to every beast of the field, because he's not speaking of wolves and bears, he's talking about bad people. Because there was no ruler, neither did my shepherds, my rulers, search for my flock, but the shepherds fed themselves and fed not my flock. The Satan bots are very wealthy here. Therefore, O you shepherds, O you rulers, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith Adonai Jehovah, behold, I am against the shepherds, the rulers, and I will require my flock at their hand. That means we're set free from this sick government. And cause them to cease from feeding the flock. They're not going to be the government anymore. Neither shall the shepherds feed themselves anymore. Well, dead people don't feed themselves. For I will deliver my flock from their mouth, that they may not be meat for them. For thus saith Adonai Jehovah, behold, I, even I, will both search my sheep and seek them out. He's going to do it. As a shepherd seeketh out his flock in the day that he is among his sheep that are scattered, so will I seek out my sheep and will deliver them out of the places where they have been scattered in the cloudy and dark day. That's your second Exodus. And I will bring them out from the people and gather them from the countries, and will bring them to their own land, Israel, and feed them upon the mountains of Israel by the rivers and in all the inhabited places of the country. I will feed them in a good pasture, and upon the high mountains of Israel shall their fold be. Okay? There shall they lie in a good fold, and in a fat pasture shall they feed upon the mountains of Israel. And I will feed my flock, and I will cause them to lie down, saith Adonai Jehovah. That means be at peace, rest, relax. I will seek that which was lost, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I am sent but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Remember, Yeshua said that. And bring again that which was driven away. That means they got thrown out of the countries like England and Russia and Spain or wherever, many places, which were driven away, and will bind up that which was broken, and will strengthen that which was sick or weak. But I will destroy the fat and the strong. I will feed them with judgment. That means to the rich Satan bots and the government. And the rabbis, probably. Maybe not, maybe so, probably. Maybe not. And as for you, O my flock, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, behold, I judge between cattle and cattle, between rams and the goats. The rich, fat Satan bots making all the money here. God will take care of them. Seemeth it a small thing unto you to have eaten up the good pasture, and you must tread down with your feet the residue of your pasture, and to have drunk of the deep water, but you must foul the residue with your feet. They give the people crap to eat, garbage food, lousy wages, tax them to death. Says he holds their nose to the grindstone. And as for my flock, they eat that which I have trodden. And as for my flock, they eat that which you have trodden with your feet, and they drink that which you have fouled with your feet. We eat the garbage. We eat the crap. We got a lousy life here. I've covered that so many times. Therefore, and high taxes. Therefore, thus saith Adonai Jehovah unto them. And I think October 7th was a breaking point for this. It just hasn't happened yet, but it will. Therefore, thus saith Adonai Jehovah unto them, behold, I, even I, will judge between the fat cattle and between the lean cattle. How do they get rich? By serving Satan. You ain't never getting ahead in Israel unless you're an expire. Forget it. Because they got so much regulation for businesses here, it's just horrible. It's horrible government. Because you have thrust with side and with shoulder, and pushed all the disease, that means the weak, with your horn, till you have scattered them abroad. They're getting people to leave Israel with the high housing prices, And they've done this for many years. A lot of people come here to make Aliyah and go back. First time I came, I left 3 years and went back. Therefore will I save my flock, and they shall no more be a prey. And I will judge between cattle and cattle. He's going to get rid of the espots, all of them. We're inundated with them here. And I will set up one shepherd, because this is the land that Satan's worried about the most. And I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them. Even my servant David, he shall feed them, and he shall be their ruler. That could be the anointed prince in the next temple. Read Ezekiel 45, the whole chapter. It could be referencing Yeshua. And I, Jehovah, will be their God, and my servant David, a prince among them. That's the anointed prince in Ezekiel 45. So it could be referencing this fellow that'll soon emerge. I'm sure he's in Israel. A prince among them. I, Jehovah, have spoken. And I will make with them a covenant of peace. That's Yeshua, the peace offering. And I will cause evil beasts to cease out of the land. Those are the bad ones. And they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the woods. And I will make them and the places round about my hill, that's Mount Zion, where the temple will be. It's knocked down now, but I'm sure Jehovah will restore it. A blessing. I will cause the shower to come down in its season. There shall be showers of blessing. And the tree of the field shall yield her fruit. My wife looked in the backyard, I think, yesterday. Said, oh my gosh, we're getting inundated with apples from our apple tree with all this weather, with the rain. They're all over the place, you know. And the earth will yield her increase. Oh yeah, we're seeing that right now. And they shall be safe, and their land, they shall be safe in their land, and shall know that Ani, Jehovah, I am Jehovah, when I have broken the bands of their yoke, and delivered them out of the hand of those that serve themselves of them. That's the internal yoke, the government, external yoke, like America, NATO, and all these other people, you know. And they shall no more be a prey and heathen. They're prey to the heathen. They'll no longer be a prey to the heathen. Neither shall the beasts of the land devour them. But they shall dwell safely, and none shall make them afraid. And I will raise up for them a plant of renown, and they shall be no more consumed with hunger in the land, and neither bear the shame of the heathen anymore. Thus shall they know that I, Jehovah Elohim, am with them, and that they, even the house of Israel, my people, saith, I know Jehovah, and you are my flock, the flock of my pasture are men, and I am Elohim, saith Adonai Jehovah. And this is going to happen before Zechariah 12, which is brewing up right now. And with the Ramadan coming up on March 10th through April 9th, we're probably headed into the perfect storm for the wars. And Jehovah will rescue us, and the two witnesses will be one of the vehicles he's going to use. And I think we covered a lot today. I hope you got something out of it. I put offering information up in the chat and in the description box. PayPal is the best for me. I have the information up there. And please pray for me and my wife Rivka for our peace, safety, protection, joy, and healing, and pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for better videos. Why not? Or live streams, whatever you want to call them. They turn into videos. And pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I am out. Thank you.